you hear me clap twice? Yeah, put your hands in the air. Okay. Yeah, wave around like you dressed okay. Lovely. Thanks, guys. Yes, just like that, Dennis. Thank you. Happy first All Partners Business Meeting of the Year. We're going to start with gratitude like we always do. I would love 3 big pieces of gratitude. Yes, ma'am.
Non-frozen pipes at my furnace working all through this cold.
That is a huge Two more before we can get started. Yes, ma'am.
I'm grateful for everyone that share their knowledge so that we can become better people.
And one last big gratitude. Oh, Nicole, Matt, was that a question or a yes?
I'm grateful for my grandbaby Taylor both from 2 years
Oh, I love that. And for the rest of this amazing All Partners meeting, we're going to give it away to Miss Lindy and Miss Pam. But first, we're going to have Greg come up and tell us quickly what is going on in the industry. So it's going to be kind of like a maze over the river through the woods.
Folks, how's everybody doing? Activity pick up? Yes. Yes, multiple offers. Boom. Here we go. All those people, I literally got under contract yesterday with Cheryl Peterson. She's not here, but we had a client that wanted to make an offer last week on this house and they didn't. Because they got sick and they had some kid stuff or whatever, so they waited. Then yesterday we were competing against 3 offers. Thankfully we got it, but they ended up paying more than they would have paid last week, right? So big deal. Remember last time I told you rates came down, but it's going to be volatile? Rates are moving up today, okay? So just be prepared. That's what it's going to look like for your clients. It's not about what the Fed does, it's what they say. A couple of Fed members came out and said, whoa, maybe we should hold off on lowering rates. Maybe we should make sure that inflation is taken care of before we start lowering rates. So expect a lot of that. And you guys are going to have to understand what that means for your clients, right? The media is going to say rates went up this week, and it might literally be the average rate went from 6.7 to 6.77, right? So your clients might freak out. You guys need to explain what that means to them, okay? Now, we talked about multiple offers. Multiple offers are going to be a bigger thing going forward. Multiple offers in our market have been a huge deal for a decade, right? It's only been the last year that we could get clients contingent offers accepted. We can get those 2-1 buy downs that everybody forgot about for like 20 years. Like those all came back, right? So I'm really excited to tell you guys that we are now offering 2 programs that are going to help your clients buy before they sell. Okay, one of them is Knock. You guys have heard of Knock. Okay, Knock used to be a loan originator. So they would handle the bridge loan and the forward mortgage. They're now working with other companies right here to offer their product. There's also another one called Home. So what Debbie and I are going to be doing is we're going to really soon, like in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be teaching a class. And it's going to go over all of the programs and all of the different ways that we can help you guys, help your sellers buy before they have to list. Because we know contingent offers, dead on arrival in most cases. That's how it's going to go as rates come down. Also, there's a component of these that help you as a listing agent get their home fixed up. Okay? So both of the programs that we're going to talk about specifically offer that, and then there's some other options too that we'll talk about. So it's going to be a really good class. So watch for that. We'll have to work with Emily or whoever to get it on the schedule, but it's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. Okay? If we have to teach it more than once, we will. But I hope everybody understands how important it's going to be for you and your business in 2024 and beyond, that you have knowledge about these programs. Okay? Cool. That's it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for being here. It's phenomenal to have a full room. There's faces I haven't seen in a while. So thanks so much for being here today. We have a unique opportunity to learn a little bit more about Pamela Ranch. And what we're going to be doing today is taking a part of what's called the CV process, career visioning. That's Gary Keller created that program to help us with hiring, right? We're really good at sales. He identified that we lack our skill in hiring, so we created this class. What we're going to do today is spend time with Pamela going through what's called her life story. And again, thank you guys for being here and hearing this part, because there's going to be a lot that we discover and learn. What I want you guys to remember is everybody started somewhere, and we always do a really good job of comparing ourselves to somebody that's ahead of us, right? And we don't always understand what it took for them to get there and what they've gone through. So I'm incredibly excited to go through this with Pamela. So Pamela, come on up. So can we start with one thing before we go into your life story, and we'll kind of rearrange so that you're on camera. But Pam, can you share a little bit about what's on the screen?
Yes. This is the last house that I lived in with my family. It's in Sequoia Homes in Kent. Does anybody know where that is?
Yeah.
Yep. 3-bedroom, 1 bath, no shower. 1 bath, no shower. Just keep that in mind, because I had 3 older brothers. Howard, no. Yes, and 1 kitchen, a small little area for laundry. My mom basically slept on the couch. I was out of that house when I was 16. It wasn't safe for me.
Perspective, right? It's important to know where everybody started and where they came from, so you guys have a deeper understanding. So thank you, Pam. Let's give you a chair. Do you want to sit while we do this, or would you like to stand? I think yes. I think that's a good idea.
And then I'm gonna stand. I'm probably gonna get nervous. You get to see the ADD in me right now.
Okay, for the most part, can you guys see this, or do I need to just straighten it? Straighten it. Okay. More better? Yeah. Okay, and you should be on. Pam, can you scoot your chair a little bit closer?
Are we going to go?
No, I think you're good. Okay. So, Pam, thanks for meeting with me today. What we're going to be doing is going through your life story. Okay, and what we're going to start with is your last education. Okay, so can you reflect back? What year did you have your last education?
Graduated high school in '79, and I went to beauty school and graduated from beauty school in 1982.
1980.
This is so weird. I gotta almost not look at you guys. I graduated from high school in '79, and I graduated, but my last education was beauty school, Bellevue Beauty School, 1982.
How long were you in beauty school?
2,000 hours. That's how long.
Okay, so Pam, reflect back on that. Tell me a little bit about what happened during that time frame and what was the highest experience for you.
Well, I learned that I liked listening to people's stories when they were sitting in my chair. So I could just ask them questions and they could talk and I could do their hair and hope it worked out.
Okay. So you enjoyed being able to connect with everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your low point during that time?
Probably just sticking to something I started.
Okay.
It was the 2,000 hours were grueling, and we did things like that were so mundane and so repetitive, like pin curls. Like I had to do 200 pin curls. Pin curls. Okay. I had to do pin curls, like 200 of them to graduate.
That's a lot. I don't even know what a pin curl is.
Not necessary.
Was there anything else during that time that you want to expand on or share?
Well, I mean, I wasn't living at my house. I was living with my boyfriend.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it's actually Dennis. The other thing that was kind of unique to my situation was I'm American Indian. So I applied for a grant to go to school. Not only did they pay for my school, but they gave me $500 a month stipend to live on. So I actually had more money than I'd had in like a really long time. And they came and they took pictures of me and they put me in the newspaper. Yeah, I just
What
remember
was that?
that. Maybe because I was finishing something I started. I don't know.
You still have those pictures?
I do. I actually do.
Okay, so Pam, what was the next life event?
That's in 82. I would say at the end of 83, we got married. So do the math, people. It was 40 years. December 26th.
Okay, so talk to me about this getting married. What was the highest?
I think the highest was that we finally made a decision to get married. We dated for 7 years before that. So, so we made a decision, got married, and got pregnant really quick after.
Did you have a ceremony?
We had a wedding where it's the day after Christmas. So number one, we didn't buy any flowers. Church was already decorated. Right? So we didn't spend any money. I borrowed dresses for bridesmaids from a friend. I think we spent $200 of our own money, and I think we had to put it on credit cards actually.
If you
To get
guys
married.
were dating for were you guys dating since middle school?
High school. I was 15.
Oh, okay.
What were your challenges during this time frame?
Just getting to know Dennis married, I think, because I'd known him unmarried forever, and that was fun. But, you know, then things came up like how we handle money and just, you know, things got more serious, I think, at that point. Like we were actually growing up because we also had a daughter now. And I did go back to work. Actually, I never stopped working, even during my pregnancy. So at that time, though, I was selling health club memberships, and so was Dennis. And I was teaching aerobics. I was a personal trainer before all of that was popular. Yep, I did a video.
Where is that?
Lake
located?
I know where it is, but I'm not telling you guys.
Okay, so 1983, you're married to Dennis, right? You're learning how to navigate life together with the responsibilities, and you became pregnant. So what year was Rachel born?
84.
1984. Okay. What were the highs?
Oh, I mean, I just eased into motherhood so good. Even the nurses were very impressed. I was calm, which was really weird, but I was calm.
I like it. Okay, so you were calm, you have tiny human, you're married to Dennis. What were some of the challenges?
The other day probably was a challenge. I think we both liked working. I think the thing that I had going for me at that time also was because I worked at a women's health club, I was able to bring Rachel to work with me. So I just packed her up every day and went to work. It was like no big deal. And she stayed in the daycare and she could watch me do the things and I could go in and check on her. But I had to run the health club too. So
How long did you run this health club?
3 years. 4 years. You guys know Danielle Crabtree?
Yeah.
Her mother was my boss. But what I learned from her was show up, do the work, don't give me any excuses why you can't.
So high standards.
Very high standards.
Was that your first experience for high standards in a work
Yes.
environment?
In any environment.
How did that influence you from where you're at now?
well, made all the difference.
Why?
Because somebody had an expectation of me that I could live into.
I like that word, live into.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share about, 1984 time range with Tiny Grateful?
I gained 50 pounds. Not a proud moment, but being pregnant first time, I went from a size 0 to a size whatever. And, but I quickly lost it because I went right back into teaching and working out. Just, yeah.
Anything else? No? Okay, what was the next big event?
I'd say Christopher was born.
What year?
1986. Super excited. Have a girl, have a boy. You know?
What were the highs?
Thing that sticks out to me probably the most was how excited Dennis was when he found out he had a boy. And just learning how to navigate the two different children. And both of us are working at that time as well. And I think I went from full-time managing health clubs and to part-time working at what was the Bon Marché. And yeah, I worked at the Bon Marché for years off and on with the kids as they were little, for sure.
Okay. How long were you there?
A course of 10 years probably. It was easy. She hired me on the spot. And whenever I wanted to take time off, she would let me. And whenever my first Bon Marché experience was in South Center or Westfield Mall.
What were you doing there?
Selling lingerie. And all the men would come in at Christmas time and say, I'd ask them about their wife, and they would say, well, she's about your size. All this stuff's coming back is what I So much for my commission.
Okay. Anything else in this time period, or what was the next large life event?
I think being married with 2 kids and working, difficult, learning how to do that. I was a very unprocessed young person.
What does that mean?
I didn't know how to handle my own emotions.
Okay.
So they would come out on people in weird places. I had a lot of panic and anxiety attacks. And I didn't know what to do with all that.
Okay.
And Dennis didn't either.
Fair. Okay, so let's do a recap real quick because we've already got some light. So you went to beauty school in 1982, right? Where you had to do 2,000 hours. Then you went into becoming married a year later with Dennis and going from boyfriend to husband and navigating the realities of that relationship quickly after you had baby Rachel, right? You've continued to work throughout all of it. And then Chris came along in 1986. Dennis was geeked to have a tiny boy, and you guys are continuing to navigate it and discovering and experiencing anxiety and panic attacks without the ability to know how to kind of navigate that. Am I missing anything so far?
The only thing that yes, so I was also selling a cosmetic called Noevier, which is a beautiful Japanese skincare line. Smells delicious. And I quickly grew my organization to 100 people. And so I won a trip to Japan and got to take Dennis with me. Never been out of the country before. Maybe not even an airplane in my life. Right? And this is in 88, right? So I was scared to death to get on a plane, be away from my kids. And that's where I had my first panic attack. Was in Japan in Tokyo. It's a great place to have a panic attack.
So that was 1988.
Yeah.
Trip to Japan.
Yep.
Okay. Walk us through that panic attack.
Well, we were just having a great time in Tokyo and being just lavished on, and all of a sudden I just started feeling these weird things in my body, and I thought I was going to die. Literally.
Okay.
I couldn't explain it to anybody, and I think I was aware that everybody probably thought I was out of my mind.
Okay.
I thought I was having a heart attack.
So was that the low in that moment?
Super low, super scary, super embarrassing. They called me. They called a ambulance in Tokyo. I mean, there's people everywhere, and I'm the one American that they're all looking at right now. So it just made it worse.
Okay.
And but the cool thing was we were with the president of this company, and he said they were going to take me to this one hospital, and he said absolutely not. I'm going to take her to the University of Tokyo, which is the best hospital in Japan. And so they took me there instead. And there, all of these Japanese doctors were just around me and talking Japanese. I understand anything, which made my panic. So they handed me a paper bag.
Was that the solution?
Pretty much. And then after all the commotion, one doctor came back in, and with his English, he said to me something like this. He said, "Did something happen to you when you were little?" And the floodgates just opened as wide as they could. Every memory, everything just came flooding back.
Was that the end of the trip or the beginning?
Oh, that was probably towards the beginning of the trip. They gave me some Xanax.
Good to go?
To finish. Okay. Which I didn't want to take because I didn't trust anything or anybody. And so maybe I took it one time after that, but I couldn't do it.
All right, what was the next big event?
Next big event was just more panic attacks. Like for a while I was working and I had kids in the car, and sometimes I had to pull over and figure out what was wrong with me. And, I don't know if my kids are in the room. They won't really remember that because it was a long time ago and they were little. But they might remember it. I don't know. And I think that learning how to place my trust in something other than myself was a lesson I'm learning here. And little things started to happen to kind of lead me down a path that I think changed the trajectory of my life, which was driving down the road one day. I heard a voice in my head say, "Turn left." So I turned left, and then it was just going to this parking lot. I looked up and there's this just big brick church in Puyallup downtown. Never seen it before, never been down that road before, nothing. Go in, it's this voice in my head saying, "Go in." I go in, there's nobody in there. And so I just go in and I'm looking around, and on the bulletin board, there's all these pieces of paper. I go over and I look, and there's a class, go figure, a class that I could go to for women like me, who've been in circumstances like me. And I decided that might be a good idea. And then it was like 2 weeks later, and I talked myself in and out of it multiple times. I wore this really pretty little pink suit. Victoria, you would have loved it. So classy. Walked in there with all the class. No one would know what's wrong with me.
The facade.
I had a huge facade. And I went in, and then I went into this class, and in like 3 minutes, I was uncontrollably crying.
How long did you go to this class?
Feel like I'm still not out of it.
Fair.
A long time. I don't remember. A couple years probably, I would say.
And so your high was finding your church in this class. Was there any other highs during this time?
Just being around other women who had gone through similar things and knowing that I really wasn't alone and there was a place I could go and talk about things that I never talked about.
Any specific lows that you can remember during this time?
That was a low. I mean, the whole thing, the whole panic attacks, all of that, you know, my husband thinking I'm crazy. But he was nice too at the same time. That was just a low. It was a depressing time in my life. It was very difficult.
How old were you?
How old was I? 27, 28,
Around there?
something like that.
So a young woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else regarding this time period that you want to share?
I would say what I learned from that is listen to the inner voice, and do whatever it tells you to do. Like, if I hadn't taken that left turn that day, I don't know where I'd be today. I wouldn't be here.
What happened next? What's the next big event?
I continued down this path. I read a book called, oh God, there's so many books, but the one that pops out is Search for Significance. I just needed to figure out why I even mattered to anybody. So I was doing a lot of that. And I'm learning about myself. I'm learning how to cope with things. I'm learning how to talk about things. Because believe it or not, I was extremely shy and I didn't talk to a lot of people growing up. I just didn't talk to anybody. As a matter of fact, I don't remember hearing myself laugh out loud until I was 16-ish years old.
So you're learning about yourself, you're attending these classes, you're realizing there's others that have similar experiences. Okay. Anything else here before we go into the next big event?
Nope.
Okay. What was the next big event?
Hannah.
Okay, what year?
1991.
1991. What were your highs during this time?
This time was really different than the two other times being pregnant. I loved being pregnant with Hannah for whatever reason. I think just letting go of a lot of stuff and just really enjoying the process of being pregnant with this little one. And we didn't check to see if boy or girl. I didn't know that wasn't a thing back then. So I think I was just really loving my life at that time. Because I think it was because I had worked through a bunch of stuff. I was starting to feel like I was coming to the other side of some things. Yeah.
Okay. What were some of the lows? What were the challenges?
Money is always a challenge. I think Dennis and I are still learning how to grow together. I'm still working. I'm working at Macy's for the most part. I'm also now leading a group of women. And I have a lot of that kind of thing happening where people just show up at my house randomly and sit on my couch with a pillow. That was a thing. And I would just let them sit and tell me things.
So you held space for people.
Yeah.
Was that really the first time that started to experience? You started to have that experience?
Yep. Okay. People always told me things. Like I always wondered why people were telling me things that most people wouldn't share. But this was like really more of that, like more than I ever had experienced before. Yes.
Okay. Anything else during this time frame that you want to share that kind of came to mind?
I think it's just that she was just fun. I think I was just learning how to have fun. She was such a positive little human being and still is.
Yeah.
And that was really fun.
So you're 30-ish and you're just learning how to have fun.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's big, guys, right? Anything else during this time frame that you want to share?
Nobody's had to just now. That's all.
What was the next big event?
Well, Dennis is working a lot and like 7 days a week. He's in real estate, if you didn't figure that out by now. So he
When did
started
you start real estate?
he started when he was 27, and so I was 25. So 1987. And so he was gone all the time. He was 24/7 Pop-Tart agent. That's what he was. And that's just the way everybody did real estate back then. So we did that for a number of years, seemed okay. By the way, at this time, I'm also working out a lot too. So I'm getting my, I'm trying to take care of myself better. So, and
What do you mean taking care of yourself?
I started putting myself first. Like I would go work out before I would do anything. I go run before Thanksgiving dinner. I just needed to do that for me so I could come and, be present, or I mean, those weren't even words I used back then. So I don't even know what to say at that point, but.
Okay, so Dennis is working 24/7 in real estate. You're learning how to take care of yourself at a higher level. What else during that time frame?
I feel like we just did that for a number of years. So that was just the normal way we were going about things. And then Dennis, I mean, I think I looked up one day and thought that two things happened actually. Number one, I thought if anything ever happened to Dennis, here I am working at Macy's part-time, I can't make a living for myself. If something happened to Dennis, I wouldn't know what I would have done. Because he was the breadwinner. I didn't have any really education. I could do hair, but part-time real estate or part-time Macy's was never going to get me where I wanted to go. So we talked about it, and I think that's where we ended up. We decided that I would come into real estate and be his assistant.
What year was that?
This is 94.
Probably 94 when you decided that.
Yeah.
But I want to add something that I think is important for agents to hear. Those first 3 to 4 years in real estate, you kept telling me, go find a real job. Because their income was up and down, just like all of
I did. I was that wife. I kept telling him to go get a real job because it was difficult. We had very different money styles, which created a lot of conflict in our marriage. He would pay the bills and then give me $20 and say, this is what you have to feed the kids on. So I get paid next. It was that bad?
Okay, so it's 1994. You decide to become an assistant. What were your highs during that?
It didn't last very long.
Okay.
No. What ended up happening, you're shaking your head.
Let's start with the low, which is you going to take the test.
Oh my God. Okay, so you guys, I haven't taken a test since beauty school or high school, right? I'm the worst test taker. I'm dyslexic. I see everything forwards and backwards and in between, right? Like, so test taking I was super anxious about it. So we devised a plan though. The plan was he would put everything into a story form for me. So if anybody out there is dyslexic and they're trying to do something, this is such a great way to do it. So when we talk about escrow and title, I couldn't figure out the ups and downs. I'd read the little scenarios and it wasn't making any sense. So we devised a story. And then all I had to do was remember the story and the people in the story, and then I could understand how to answer the question. So I did pass the test first time, but I had a lot of anxiety about it.
She almost didn't take it.
Almost didn't take it. He had to convince me I was going to be okay. So I get my license, and then his dad calls him about 3 weeks later and says that he's going to sell the business, which Dennis had grown up in. It was in manufacturing, so painting, plastics and metals, and that kind of finishing company, basically. And we had worked there. Like, I had worked there when I was young, and all of our friends worked there. So it seemed like a natural thing. By the way, Dennis was burned out of real estate, burned out 24/7, 2 kids at home and a wife. And so I did. We both thought it.
3 kids.
Oh yeah, 3 kids at this time. So he decided to buy it. That had some complications of its own, and this is my story, not his. So I'm not going to go there. Should I go there?
If it's a part of your story that has
Well,
significance.
it's significant because we had to work through some other family issues. The business was worth nothing. We didn't know that when we bought it. Dennis had to go get an education on how to run a business again. What he had going for him at that point was sales. He knew how to go get and generate new sales, new business. And so what we thought was going to be a saving grace turned out to be a Pandora's box. And then the rest of the family thought he was being gifted something that was really valuable, but they didn't know it wasn't. And we to this day never told them. You guys are the first to know that. Okay. So working through all of that. But what happened with me in the real estate, once he decided to go over there, he's now got a full-time job up in Kirkland. We live in Federal Way. So we, and I know nothing. I know zero, right? You guys were new, you know nothing, right? So I was that person. But what we would do is get up every morning, and he had a stack of files. So he had given me his business, deals pending, a high-end construction site that he listed, new buyers that he was working with, sellers that he was going to list. He had all the things. And I had to just jump in and take over. So every morning we get up, we look at the files, and he would say, okay, here's Bob and Sally, and they're buying a house. And it was just like that, more story time. And then here's where they're at. This is what you need to do. Call escrow, ask them this question. Okay, well, what if they ask me another question? Like, what happens? He said, tell them it's a great question and you'll get back to them. I'm like, okay. So basically that's how we ended up transferring his real estate business to me. And we did that for a long time. And then he would go off to work and we'd come back, and that's just how we did it.
What were your highs during this? When you went from assistant, which wasn't the fave, right? Now going into actually the production side of it, where were you winning?
I was winning because I was actually starting to figure things out, how to make some things work. Remember when I said that I needed to know that I could make a living? This was showing me now I could make a living if something happened to him. And I needed to know that for my own sake. And I would say I'm really good at jumping in and figuring things out. Always leaning on somebody else to ask questions to, though. I think that's been a trend through the rest of my life, is like knowing that I don't have to know all the answers. I just need to know who I can ask.
What were your challenges during this time?
Managing the family. So now we have the 3 kids. They're in private school. We're starting to gain in our income a little bit. I think we went from like, Dennis, do you remember when we started tracking our income? We tracked it through our tax returns. When we started working together, I think we were all of like $60,000 a year working together. No, more than that.
I'll be 140.
140? Well, that's, this is now.
Between the two of us.
Yeah, between the two of us.
Okay, so let's go back to your struggles. Like you're learning how to navigate all the kids. They're now in private school. What else?
Two of us coming from different directions. He's coming from Kirkland. The nice thing about that, it was like from 7 to 3, he could be home, he could go, and he could pick up the kids from school, and I could still go sell real estate. And so we learned how to kind of manage all of that. And keep in mind, for a lot of this, there wasn't even a cell phone. We got cell phones later, but there wasn't even cell phone for communication. We didn't even have fax machines when we started. That's weird, but that's the way it was.
Anything else during this time frame?
I just think it was just a lot of working and a lot of go, go, go. And I think we were just, taking one day at a time. So that's it. Just one day at a time. Wake up, like we got on the agenda today, go do it, come back, start over.
Okay. So the rat race.
Yeah.
Right?
Lindy, can you ask the question this way?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Can you guys not hear me?
No, not that.
My bad. Okay, so Pam, what is the next big event that happened?
The next big event would be about 7 years later, as I'm in real estate and I'm starting to feel like I'm hitting a ceiling of achievement, or I'm hitting a wall, and I feel like I've got kids, a husband, we've got double income now. The money was starting to get really good. I'll say really good, like in 250 between the two of us, something like that. But we had a boat, we had a house, 3-car garage. I'm still working. Dennis, again, has weekends off and the evenings off. He got to go to the baseball games. He got to go play with the kids on the boat during the summer. I had an open house. So I'm starting to feel a little resentful. I'm starting to feel like this can't go on forever. So how can I do it different? So I started looking around for how I could do it different. And then I went to lunch with another agent friend of mine, and she introduced me to Carla Cross, who is a real estate trainer, and gave me the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. You guys know that book?
Yeah.
And I read it. I say that because most of you haven't. And I was so like, this could be a different way to do real estate. Nobody was talking about this. And Dennis was like, Pam, you're doing great right now. No one's ever heard of this company. Just keep your head down. Just keep grinding. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, no. So I find out where more classes are, and I start to take more classes. I'm starting to learn. At the same time, Dennis is reading this book, and he's going to college, Bellevue Community College, to learn more about how to run a business, right? And what he's learning is all about systems. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Putting these two things together. And so while he's telling me, just keep your head down, do your thing, I'm like going around and I'm learning. And then I say to him, I say, hey, there's this class that you should go and take. It's in Portland, and it'll help you with your business. I know it will, because it's all about systems. That's what he's learning about right now. So by the way, I'm not going to go with you, and the kids aren't either. So go have yourself a couple days on your own. Do you think he went?
Yep.
Totally went. He went. He came back, and he was just like, wow, if I'd have had this when I was selling real estate, I would have never left real estate. So now I'm on this path, learning. I'm at a different company. I was there for a year while I was learning about Keller Williams systems and models. I thought that I could just take what I was learning and do it there. But when I went to talk to my friends in our brokerage, they would all just do this thing with me, which is like, oh, Pam, you're so cute when you get excited. So no one took me seriously. And so at the end of 2004, the very end of 2004, I left that brokerage and I went to the Keller Williams office in University Place because there wasn't a Keller Williams office in Federal Way, which my other office I was 5 minutes away from. But what I was after was how to do this like a business and create a life, right? Because the business model was to have careers worth having, businesses owning, and lives worth living. And so I wanted that. That's totally what I wanted. And so I was learning that.
You joined KW. What were your highs?
Just being in an environment where I was like learning, and then I put myself in every class I could, mostly the leadership classes, because nobody told me I couldn't go there. So I would just sign up for everything. And I'd go there and people would be like, are you a team leader? You're the team leader, right? And like, what's a team leader? I had no idea. But hindsight's 2020. So I just kept going to classes and kept learning, and then was at an open house where the regional owner, Mike Mendoza, came, and I was introduced to him. And I just simply looked at him and said, hey, this is such a great company. We really need one of these in Federal Way. And he said, I can help you with that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so he said, well, if you can get 60 people in a room, I'll come up and buy you all lunch and I'll tell them about the opportunity, which is Keller Williams. And I said, okay. Now I have no idea how long it took me to get 60 people to say yes. But we did. We had approximately 50, 60 people in the room, and they shared that opportunity. And there was 12 people who raised their hand and said, hey, I want some of that. So that was kind of the beginning of something that I never set out to do. I never set out to be a brokerage owner. It wasn't on my plan. It just happened to be where I think I was passionate about two things: finding my purpose in life and creating I think all I was really looking for was finding purpose in my life, really, and being at home more with my kids. Yeah. This split the bill. Those two things.
What was the struggles during that time?
Just your everyday things, just the kids in private school and the money and the lack of time. And I was pretty jelly because he got to go to do all the fun things with the kids and I still wasn't.
Anything else significant during this period?
I think what's significant, what stands out to me now is that I met some of the most incredible people in some of the most circumstantial way. The other person who came into my life at that time was a gentleman named Ken Churchill. I met him in the parking lot. And this was right before I met Mike Mendoza. So I was walking out of the office and he was walking into the office. Ken walking in, I'm walking out. He stops me and says, is there a real estate office in that building? I said, yes. And he said, I'm like, where are you from? And right? Just striking up a conversation. Really nice guy. And in the back of my mind, I knew that I could have taken him as a client like that because he was looking for a real estate agent, right? And he met me. But he was on his way into the office, so I felt like he needed to go work with the person that was at the up desk. You know what floor time is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So her name was Carol. She was sitting at the desk. I told him, I said, Carol is in there and she's waiting for you. Because I felt like that was the right thing to do. And so he met Carol and whatnot. And then later on that day, Dennis and I were going to a baseball game, a Mariners game. We stopped at Salty's. It was a beautiful August day. And walked in to sit down, and there is Ken with his wife, Kathy. And he invited us to sit at their table, and we did. And we just walked away from that just on a high because we just felt like we knew these two people forever, and we just met them. And we exchanged information, and Ken started sending me books on leadership. And he's the first one that introduced me to John Maxwell and everything leadership with John Maxwell. So again, it's just the randomness of some of this stuff that happened maybe wasn't really so random, but I was open to it. Perfect. Because I was looking for purpose, right? Because I wanted something more. I wanted something better. I think that I was open and available to those things walking into my life.
Anything else for this time?
Nope. So soon after we met with Mike Mendoza, we opened this office in January of 2005, which is January 5th, 2005. And when we opened with 24 agents because we were collecting agents at that time. And we were in my friend Dina's garage, basically, housing agents' licenses until we got a space. In a garage, people. But guess what? What's one of the models? Lead with revenue, not?
Expenses.
We had no expenses. So all the money that came in was purely profit. So we opened. Within 90 days, we were profitable. We were a home run launch that year. We recruited 110 agents in 10 months.
Sorry, say it again.
We recruited 110 agents in 10 months. It was fun. It was fun and it was hard work. I'm just going to say it was both. It was yin yang, fun and hard work, and a lot of tears, and a lot of uncomfortableness, and a lot of uncertainty. Is like, how do I do this? So
Has that ever stopped? That aspect?
not really.
What'd you ask the question?
He asked me if that ever stopped, the uncomfortableness. No.
Okay, so you opened up KWPS in 2005 in a garage with 25 agents. Profitable in 90 days. Recruited 110 agents in 10 months. Is outstanding. What was the biggest struggle during that time?
Some of the people that we got into business with, 100%. Shouldn't have been in business with them.
How do you know?
They weren't learning based, and this is a learning based environment. If you don't want to learn, you know enough to be negligent and take everybody down around you. And I didn't know that going in. They were nice people. I like everybody. So that was a big, huge learning lesson on our part. We followed the model, we did all the things, but we didn't do any of this with the people that, this meaning this career visioning, we didn't do that with any of the people we got into business with. Therefore, it came back to bite us in a big way.
Okay, so pain point of bad partnership. Anything else?
I mean, it was an unexpected series of events that were very cool because out of 500 offices at the time, we were number 3 in a launch. We were profitable. I didn't slow down to celebrate any of it.
Okay, so you're going mock stupid. You're finding success. You're having fun along the way while learning.
Oh, by the way, I no longer work evenings and weekends.
Which was a pain point.
Which was a pain point for me. The TL opportunity was something that moved my trajectory completely.
Let's go back just a hot second. Okay, so you meet these people, you meet Ken Churchill, he gives you books on leadership. when did you have that defining aha moment that you wanted to take that next step? Because that's a big change to go from working at a brokerage to having a brokerage.
Everybody thought I was crazy. I think the defining step was when people said that they would come along with us if I was the team leader. And so I look back on that now, and I think it was the belief that they had in me that I didn't have in myself was defining for me.
So is it this time frame where you started to find your purpose?
I didn't know that work could be missional, like I could live out my life's purpose through work. This is where I learned that.
Go deeper on that.
I think working for me, my growing up years was to pay the bills, and you had to work really hard just to do that. That's what work meant. What I wanted was my life to mean something, not just to my family, but to other people. And I had amazing women in leadership, Mo Anderson, Mary Tennant. And when I met them for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, that's who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be like them. If you've never had the experience with either one of those two women, I mean, they hardly exist in this world. They're worth seeking out.
Lots of highs, some lows. Anything else during this that's coming back to your mind?
I think the hard thing was just sticking, this shows up again, sticking to the mundane thing. Like my job was to do what? Make phone calls, lead generate, get appointments, just like real estate. And so there is again where it's just kind of mundane, and but it is really the path, you know, to your success at the same time. So making peace with that, learning how to succeed through people versus doing everything myself, like understanding leverage at a high level. Some of you might have been with me still in this room back in my early days. You know, I was a hot mess, right, Maria? You're not gonna say. Jerry, yeah, some of you guys know. You watched, you saw. And just being that vulnerable where you're making all these messes in front of everybody, and they know. They're a very vulnerable position.
Yeah. How long were you in the garage before you relocated to the first location?
About 6 months.
6 months.
Not very long.
Okay. So 6 months. Talk to me about that transition from going from the garage to an actual physical location.
Okay, so we were following the model, and they suggested that you, if you can, to get into a sublease situation where you can grow quickly and move out quickly. So we were looking for that, and we found that right over here in Granville Court, which is just right up the street from here, 1 block. And it was 2,200 square feet. And we sublet it from Royal Bank of Canada that was going out of business. They threw in a phone service, a phone system that we didn't have to pay for
If you stay.
if we stayed for the full year. And this is where things get really crazy, because I was realizing if you're really in the flow of your energy and your passion, things get easier, not harder. So we got this phone system. We probably would have saved us like $40,000. We would have had to buy it. And then we got a line on furniture from WAMU Bank was closing. I'm open and closed, lending service thing. And they had all this furniture that they had to get rid of, brand new furniture. And we picked it up for it was like probably another $40,000 worth of furniture. We would have had to spend that, right? We didn't. We spent like $1,400. They were just giving it to us basically. And so this is some of the things that showed up for us while we were working through and learning at the same time. And we multi-used the heck out of that space, and that's where we grew to the 110 agents. Okay. And we were tripping all over each other. Nobody really had an office. We set a training room, was our bullpen, was our everything. It was so fun, wasn't it?
It
was fun. It was fun. It was fun. We tripped over everything. And then we ended up getting a new space, which was down here at the end of this street. So we've only been on this street, which is really funny.
How long were you in this location before you moved?
The subways?
Yeah.
1 year.
But we had the money to be able to go and make that move because we had done so well with recruiting, getting agents into production, and not spending money. We didn't spend any money. I even didn't buy forks for the kitchen.
What?
Yeah.
How'd you get your forks?
I asked you guys have extra forks at home you can bring for the kitchen? I'm not kidding. We might even ask you that again.
What year did you go into the second location?
2007, we went into the next location.
06.
Oh, 06. He signed all the leases and all the things. I didn't do any of that. Again, this is where I'm really learning to stay in my own lane. Like, he could manage those things. I was responsible for my things, which was lead generation and appointments. He got to handle all the money stuff. Say thank God. I'm learning about money at this time. I'm learning about it.
So you guys are getting clarity on your roles as a brokerage owner. What were some of your highs in this new location?
We moved in 2006 and we were just training all the time. Agents were coming in the office. We were script and role playing. It was just a fun time. There wasn't a coach around every corner at that time. Not like there is today. You guys get bombarded with coaches, but there wasn't. We were coaching, training, consulting company. There was nobody else doing what we were doing. And so everybody was coming to us for answers. And for like, what the heck are they doing? You know, because remember all the people that were patting me on the back? They're starting to wonder about me, at least.
What were some of the struggles?
08.
2008.
Okay.
Recession.
So 2008, walk me through that. What happened?
Real estate just left the planet. Real estate sales were just gone. Not like it is today. Worse, way worse.
It was worse because prices were dropping too. And those that could sell had this short sell, a lot of them.
So meaning 6 months to a year.
And it took a long time to get something closed.
6 months to a year. It was horrible. We had to store all of our files in a storage room back there, paper files, according to the DOL. So we had one room designated just to that. And I remember walking in one day and literally seeing 2005, 2006, 2007, and they were closed boxes of closed units. 2008, expired, canceled, expired, canceled,
Sale failed.
sale fail, boxes of it everywhere. It was a surreal moment. That's when it gave me pause. And I think I got out of being a team leader for a minute because I was overwhelmed with the responsibility. I felt like I had no answers for anybody. I didn't think I could lead anymore. I was done. So I just became an agent again. And that was really a good thing to do because I realized what you were going through, what you might be saying to yourself. And by the way, there still was business being had, and I found it. So now you couldn't come back into my office again and tell me there wasn't any business because you know what? No, I just found a piece of business over here, over here. So I think that helped me to understand the agent. And then I came back into being the team leader again and really started to really learn how to work through the ALC to figure out who we were becoming and what we needed to do in order to get out of that market.
Let's pause a little bit. Can you go deeper? What is the ALC?
The Associate Leadership Council was a group of agents that would be the team leaders board of directors, and they helped me in the decision-making process. And keep in mind, we were an immature market center learning how to be a market center. We hadn't grown into ourselves at all. And I certainly hadn't grown into my leadership at all. And yet I'm the leader. That was a little scary. It was scary because when your agents come to you and they have no money to pay their electricity, when their husbands want a divorce or wives want a divorce, there were so many personal issues that were coming to the forefront. We had agents homeless sleeping in our office.
How long did this experience go on?
Oh, 3 years with intensity.
So what was your agent count at the beginning of 2008?
120, a little over 120. 125. Got down as low as 56.
56 at the end of that?
56 agents. We had 2 cappers. One of them was Dennis
In a way.
in 08.
So let's recap real quick, okay? You took a leap of faith. You opened your own brokerage, right, while growing into it. A few years later, the recession hits. So you went from 120 agents having fun, tripping over each other, to the downturn to where now agents are now sleeping in the office, and you're learning how to lead through crisis. You get down to 56 agents, 2 were cappers. What did your finances look like?
The market center finances.
As a whole, everything.
The market center finances, we lost
About 50,000 a year for 3 years straight.
So you were losing.
We're going backwards, yeah.
but we did have money in the bank. So when we say we have reserves for a reason. This is what helped us through that whole time, was having those reserves. Without them, we'd have been shut down. We would have had to get the franchise back, probably. And a lot of market centers did over the country.
3 market centers near us shut down.
Yeah.
Anything else during this time?
I think the idea at this time, recasting vision for who we were going to become and working through the ALC to do that. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen day to day that we just kind of worked through every single day. But the real learning lesson for me came when I started figuring out how to succeed through other people and understanding their strengths and what they could bring to the table and how we could all work together to create an environment nobody would ever want to leave.
What was the next big event in your life?
I think while we're doing this, the thing that strikes me is we bought a house in July of 2007. Remember the market crash in 2008? July. We were like one of the last stated income loans available in the state of Washington. We took it. So we were way high. I mean, it was just the income that was coming in. Dennis had this business, and that was what was bringing in our income, because I wasn't really making any money as a TL. As a matter of fact, I would probably want to pay myself last, if at all,
So
during
you
that
guys
time.
still had that other family business, the paint store?
So he's selling real estate, running that other business, and I'm running the franchise. And we have 3 kids in 3 private schools, piano now, and all the things. So it was crazy making.
Okay. So 2008, you did this for 3 years, so 2011, right? What was the next big event? What's the next time frame?
I think the biggest thing that comes to my mind, which was a shift, was when we had an ALC clinic and we cast vision. It was 2011, I believe. And we were so engrossed in this conversation we were having that the vision that they cast was so big and daunting to me as the leader. But I just sat there and listened to what it is that the agent said that they wanted, and they wanted to be the #1 office in Federal Way. And at the time, there was another office right here down the road that was #1, had been forever in Federal Way. And I just listened, and they said after we do that, then we want to be the #1 office in South King County, which was way bigger than I could think. But again, we just wrote it down, and we wanted to move. We're starting to grow again, our office. We're getting tight on space. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. We all just hunkered down and we got good at our business again. That's what we did. We got good about going on appointments. I got better at using the tools that Keller Williams gave me. I did more of these kinds of things with more agents than I'd ever done in my life. Career visioning and helping them get what they want, succeeding at a high level, and just pouring into people. That's what we were doing, just pouring in. So we ended up from 2011 to 2015, 16, this is what we were doing. Taking our model systems and tools, making appointments, figuring out how to help people get what they want. And then we ended up being the #1 office in Federal Way.
Take from ALC casting that vision for it to happen.
Probably 2 years.
2 years? Okay.
I was also learning how to read my multi-year trends. And I would go in, and Dennis and I would go in, and we would say, okay, so this office has this many closings this month. This is where we are. And so I started to learn how to take the numbers of a business and read them and know what I needed to do, what action I needed to take or we needed to take as a company to secure the #1 spot. So again, a lot of learning, and a lot of trial and error and repetition, mundane conversations.
What were some of the down, hard spots during this time?
I would say in doing all what I felt like pouring into agents is when they would leave. And I used to take it so personally that I had to go to bed for 2 days, literally. I couldn't handle the relationship going away. So I got so close to people that it was very difficult for me, which probably kind of, is a leftover thing from growing up the way that I did when people would leave. So, I mean, I just had to go to bed, and then I figured out laying in bed, I figured out what I needed to do now. It took 2 days of recovery. And I was really good at hiding from all you guys, too.
Okay, so 2011 to 2016 is this time frame. Anything else in there that you want to go over?
At the end of 2016, we looked up one day, and I don't remember who told us. You told us? We were the #1 office in not just South King County, but in the state of Washington in closed sales. And it was such a great privilege, really, to learn how to lead myself, to learn how to lead other people, to help other people actualize what it is that they were after in their life and who they wanted to become. So
you hit #1 closed sales in Washington. How long did you celebrate that achievement?
A minute, 2. Nimrata? Oh, was it a minute?
I was just back there saying not very long.
Yeah, not very long. And that's probably something I still need to work on. Just, if you can't tell, I'm kind of a driven person, and yeah, not very long.
What were some of the pains during this? Or the hard times?
I think the hardest thing was I was always in an environment where I was learning way more than everybody else. And it was hard for me to articulate what I was learning in a way that people would grasp what I was saying and want to go do it. So that was hard because I get excited about things, and then if you're a leader and no one's following you, it's not a very good thing. So just learning how to navigate the conversations. I'd say every day there was something that could be interpreted as hard, Lindy. Every day.
Right. Anything else that kind of came back to your memory while we were going through this?
I think the thing that comes to my mind most is, while we're doing this on the work side, the personal things that were happening in our relationship was getting stronger. Our finances were getting stronger. We got out of debt completely and never been back. Our kids, even to this day, although they're not here today, still like hanging out with us. So yeah, I don't know.
So we're in 2016. What's the next big life event for you, Kim?
Life event. I think at this point I'm pretty tired.
What year do we want to start this in?
Yeah, probably from the very beginning. No, but I was really I felt like I needed to have a break. Like I just needed to have a break. So we started looking for I got an assistant team leader.
Was this 2016 or 2017?
I think it was before that, maybe 2015, something like that. We got an assistant team leader. It was Paul Brink. And he was yin yang, and what was really great about that is he could do the things I could not do, and took a ton of stuff off my plate, and which left me which was really ironic, is left me doing things I love to do. At the same time, I didn't want to do them anymore. Why? Stupid. I don't know. I think when you work so hard sometimes, okay, I'll speak for me. I think when I realized I worked so hard for something, I felt like I just needed a little need to let air out of my balloon. And not that I still didn't love it. And I also became a MAPS coach at that same time too. So 2013 is when I did that, which honestly, that's a big deal, because I had to run the office and do all the MAPS coaching things, which is a ton of things. And it was probably when I was hitting my stride is when I was doing those two things at the same time. And why I needed help running the office and hiring an assistant team leader at that time. I think we're at 200 and
280, 290.
we were up there in agent count, and I didn't hire assistant team leader. I should have hired him.
Oh, no, you hired ATL. I think it was about 180.
You think so?
Yeah. I
Okay.
remember the number, yep.
So it was up there, but
So it was earlier than 2015.
okay.
Yeah, and MAPS was 2013. you said?
2013.
Okay, so went backwards a little bit.
Yeah, just
Right.
missed all that.
Important step. Okay, so we still have, because we're in 2024, right? We still have 10 years. So what's happened from 2015
This is what happens when you get old.
to today, right? There's
So 2017, so began hiring my replacements or another leader into the environment and working with that person. I think 2018, I fully stepped out and was just doing MAPS coaching. Before that, don't hold me.
Do you guys want to finish your story? Okay, so 2017, you started looking at replacing yourself as a TL. What were you wanting to do at that time?
I think I was just going to do MAPS coaching. I was going to coach more team leaders like myself.
Was that it?
And honestly,
Was it just TLs?
just TLs. Yeah. So leadership coaching. And
Was that these two?
yeah, it was OPs as well. Oh my gosh, they were all a hot mess. Oh. But the level of leadership that I was around was super intimidating. Like I would not show up to a meeting unprepared. I would not show up to a meeting late. I would not show up to a meeting with an excuse of anything. You know why? Because they'd kick me out of the room.
So standards were very clear during this
They were
time.
very clear and I loved it. The higher the standard, the more I wanted to be around it. Because I knew being around that level of conversation would get me where I wanted to go. Which is, don't ask me where. Still working on it.
Okay, so you started hiring replacements. You wanted to focus more on leadership coaching. You were in an environment with high standards and thrived in that. What am I missing?
Opened Kent in 2017. We purchased, we became the OPs of the Coeur d'Alene office. So we went from one office to 3 offices at the same time. Learning how to navigate that was, in one long distance, was a learning curve, huge learning curve for us. Dennis handled a lot of it. You know, he stuck to his thing, which was the financials, and my thing was the people. So we stuck to our lanes of operation, and we ended up with 3 just powerful offices, almost 800, almost 900 agents at the height of that. Number 1, number 2, profitability in the region. And you know, when you're working and you love what you do every day, it's not like you're working. So for me, I love coming in here every day, even still today. And I love teaching and I love meeting with people. And it's not like, I don't feel like I'm working even today. So money isn't my driver. Now, money is good for the good it will do, but people drive me. And Dennis is really good with money.
Okay, so we're still kind of hanging around that 2017 timeframe. What was the next big event?
I think we just did more of the same for quite some time and figuring out, you know, replacements. And then I had this one, well, Dennis is interviewing TLs at the time, and we met one back in 2000, right before the pandemic, 2019, named Randy Hagman.
Okay, so you hired a pain in the butt. Now what?
Big learning curve. Big. Well, and that's probably like one of the first times where I felt really even more comfortable that I could actually go on a month-long vacation and not worry about things, right? So, and Dennis had been encouraging me on that for a long time to let go. And
What else happened here in your personal lives that we can't overlook during this time frame?
Well, there's marriages and there's babies being born.
All that, right?
Yeah,
But what
so
was something you purchased?
a boat.
Why am I having to remind you of that? What year did you buy the boat?
So 5 years. This is our 5th summer with the boat. And the yacht. It's a little yacht.
I don't think little is just, I was confused.
But we had got out of debt, we had saved money, reinvested over the years. We just weren't doing a lot of, we weren't cashing in on our dreams at this point, right? And so this yacht was a 12-year experience in looking for 12 years. And literally just, Dennis, if we don't get a yacht, you can't get up every morning and look at them then. We're not going to get one. You can't look at them. It's basically what I'm saying to him. And one of our coaches really had a little come to Jesus talk with him and basically told him that he didn't deserve that boat and he hadn't worked hard enough for it yet.
Who? Those are fighting words.
They were fighting.
Hold on though. So you guys were looking at boats for 12 years before.
Every morning.
12 years before pulling the trigger.
Yep.
That's a hell of a long time. What?
Buying a boat makes 0 sense. Financially, it's stupid.
It's like your responsibility was getting in the way.
Right.
And you had a coach that was able to help you overcome that. Since buying that boat, what has it done for you guys?
Well, we've gone on some amazing adventures. We've learned how to navigate water. Taken lots of risks on the boat that I love. They're scary. And it's just downtime. It's like you really can't do anything on the boat, right? I mean, you're on the water, you're on the boat, you're enjoying, you're reading a book. There isn't a lot to do except for to enjoy wherever you are.
Yeah.
And bring some people with us, and then we, come on, and then we go and we have our own time alone, and so.
Tell me about your brother and my brother.
So part of the reason for buying the boat at this point is, number one, we can afford it at this point, but we have never been irresponsible with our money or with the money of the market center for that matter, either one. But my brother, my oldest brother, Tim, had 5 brothers. He got ALS, the Gehrig's disease.
Right as he retired, he got that.
40 years, same company. He was gone within a year. And then Dennis's brother, piggyback on the back of that, Dennis's brother was diagnosed with cancer as well. And at that time, they gave him 5 years. So he's still with us. But he definitely has, a time frame. So that and the coaching conversation was the reason that we ended up pulling the trigger and buying that boat.
Okay. That's big. So we're sitting around 2019, 2020. You make a hire. You buy a boat finally. What else was going on during that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks guys. The support, much needed. Okay, so the pandemic hit.
Pandemic hits, 2020, it was March 17th was the last day that we were available, March 17th, 2020. We had our annual roast beef and cabbage that day, and that was the last time we were all together as a group for a couple of years. Yep. Wow. Talk about learning how to lead. I mean, talk about failing forward. Oh. Back at it again, failing forward again.
Okay. So office starts opening up 2021. Anything else in the pandemic that you want to share? How many grandbabies do you have at this point?
I have 3.
You have 3 by 2020.
No.
No, you have 2.
2.
So 2 grandbabies.
Two. One. 2020.
1.5. We have 3.5 now.
Oh.
I know.
Okay, so you've got grandbabies. Did you make a purchase for a property?
Yes. 2021. Chris calls and says, "You guys gotta go look at this house and you can park your boat there, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, I love the house I live in. It's almost paid for. Mortgage is really inexpensive. Like, okay, we're gonna go look. We look and we end up just loving this house for so many reasons. And we put an offer on it. But we were 1 of 5, right? That was the market, 1 of 5 on this house. And Hannah talked us into going into backup position on the house.
We weren't the highest.
We weren't the highest offer. We went into backup position and we ended up with the house like 3 weeks later. It's not the first house we did that on either. We were back up on a couple of other homes that we had and ended up with the house. Talking to a group of real estate agents, so you better be listening to me on that one.
Okay, so you got, is it your forever? What does this property do?
This was our someday home. Like if we could have dreamt a home, we would, in the early days before, when we had our little boat, 19-foot Maxim, we would travel through Lake Washington and go in and out of the canals. And we would wonder, what do people who own these homes do? Wow, they have a house and a boat. What do they do for a living? And we would dream about someday, literally dream about someday. And I think the fact that we were both on the same page around our someday goals was super important. And one thing I left out of here was we started goal setting back in 2002, that we recorded our goal setting session back in 2002.
Was this the one thing or
No.
was this pre one
This
thing?
is very informal. We look back at it now. I think our goal one year was to make $86,000.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Double income.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something that we've always done, informally and informally.
So we're in 2021. You find your someday home.
Yep.
You've gone from that to your someday home.
Yep.
Right? What else was going on?
Do you remember something I should remember?
No, I'm asking you.
I think settling into your dream when you finally realize your dream is an interesting thing because I was uncomfortable with it. I told Dennis, if I don't love this in a year, we're selling it. I think that's it. Because I was uncomfortable with where we were in life. Like I didn't deserve that.
How'd you work through that?
I think time and some contemplation, having a few Christmases in the house helps, having friends over in the house helps, creating new memories in the house helps. And now I feel like it's our home.
I mean, I keep wanting to just sit on this part here, right? How often do we find ourselves striving and working our asses off to get somewhere, and then you get there and it's an uncomfortable feeling. Did you ever expect that?
No. I don't think Dennis had the uncomfortable feeling, but I had the uncomfortable feeling. So I process things out loud, so I had to tell them all about it.
Fair. Okay, so 2021, we still have a couple years gap. Is there anything in the interim there that you kind of want us to go over before we go back through and recap your bio?
I feel like I'm still doing what I love to do, and I think this year I finally have words for what it is I love to do. And I think I'm gonna cry now.
Kleenex, we need backup.
But
What is it that you love to do?
I love to teach, love, and inspire. If I can do those three things, then I know for sure that my life made a difference, that I mattered.
You found your purpose.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna recap real quick. We're gonna go back through and kind of put everything together. Starting from the beginning. Okay, so you started beauty school in 1982. You were able to go through 2,000 hours and learning how to stick to something and follow through on it, right? In 1983, you married Dennis and learned how to navigate going from a boyfriend relationship to a marriage of finances, responsibility, and growth together. In 1984, Rachel came along. You had the opportunity to learn how to navigate that. And in 1986, Chris came along, much to Dennis's delight to have a baby boy. So now you've got two babies, you're still working, and that's when you had the opportunity to go to Japan, where you had a very uncomfortable life experience of a panic attack. And where someone put in front of you the question of, did something happen in your life, right? That opened up kind of a Pandora's box for you. In 1988 is when you started really doing a lot of self-work and growth, right? You listened to your internal dialogue or the voice, right? And guided you to a church where you found a class of other women that had gone through experiences similar to you, where you had an opportunity to not only develop and grow yourself, but make an impact because people were now starting to go to you to share things. In 1991, Hannah Banana showed up, where you really enjoyed that pregnancy. It was a little bit different than the other ones, right? Money was a little bit of a challenge, but you and Dennis continued to grow together, and you started leading groups during that time frame. In 1997, Dennis was working 24/7 in real estate, not necessarily enjoying it, but this is also where you took the opportunity to take care of yourself as an individual, right? Instead of just being a mom, you focused on you, so you were able to work out and take care of yourself. And you were pestering Dennis to go find a real job. In 1994, you were able to overcome your dyslexia, and you passed your test the first round, which I hope was an indicator to you that you're able to do a lot. And then you became Dennis's assistant. Fun. Okay, in 1993, Dennis took over the paint company from his family and learned how to navigate that with the focus of trying to develop his knowledge of running a business, which thank God, look at where we're at. And so your kids were in private school, and you and Dennis were kind of just go, go, go. In 2000, you got, hold on. In 2000, you guys had a boat. You were having double income. And Dennis was living his best life on the weekends because he got to hang out with the kids. Well, you went to an open house, right? You realized that that wasn't a longevity that you were excited about. So in 2004, you joined KW because you received the MREA, right? So instead of just receiving that book, you actually read it, implemented it, and made a change. This is really where you started to really focus on finding your purpose. You ran into, was it Ken Churchill, twice, and he's the one that continued putting leadership books in front of you. Pam, is it safe to say Ken made the biggest impact in regards to you focusing on leadership?
For sure.
In 2005, you opened KW Puget Sound in a garage, like all great businesses start, with a whopping 25 agents. In 90 days, you guys were profitable. You were having a ton of fun, even though it was a lot of hard work. It's also where you discovered that you may have made poor business partnerships. And then in 6 months, you earned the right to get your first location. By following the model, you did it with a lease so that you can grow fast and get out of it. But that's also where stroke of luck kind of came in with the phones and the furniture, right? 40,000 for the phones, who knows what for the furniture. And those small little moments make such an impact that we always overlook, right? But it's incredibly telling in regards to your guys' success. In 2006, you opened up your second location. You were focusing on your role, and Dennis was growing into his in regards to finances, and you were moving along really well. You're having a lot of fun. Agents were really engaged, but they were tripping over themselves. 2008 came along with the recession, right? So now you have an opportunity to develop your skills in a different way by leading through a huge crisis in our industry. You also had that aha and defining moment when you went through the closet with the boxes to see all of the transactions going on, and then to see the 2008 date with expireds or failed sales. You went from 120 agents down to 56 agents, but didn't lose your momentum in regards to growth and development for those that were still in your world. You did step away for a minute to go back into sales so that you can identify with the agents when you did have conversations with them as the TL, which is outstanding. 2011, 2016, you really grew into the models. This is where you really developed your ALC to come along and be your partner and help you make decisions. And then 2016 is when you got your first #1 in closed sales in Washington. You celebrated never and just kept going. Your marriage was going really strong and really developing. Your finances were doing the same thing. And the kiddos were living their best life in private school. 2015-ish, we got a little messy here on time frame. But you're doing the same thing. You're growing, you're developing. You hire Paul Frank as an ATL, and you discover the pleasure of leverage, right? Because he was able to compliment you on where you either didn't enjoy doing or didn't want to do, and came alongside you. 2017, you started to really focus on hiring your replacements. This is also when you were in MAPS, but you started that journey a little bit earlier. You really enjoyed learning and developing and coaching at a high level in regards to leadership, which is still true to this day. And then 2019, 20-ish rolled around. You guys make the big decision to buy that boat, right? Which is something that you guys have wanted. You also made it a hire for a replacement. And then 2020 strikes. I remember that day so vividly, having a beer with Dennis in the kitchen before we were no longer allowed to see each other. So we all got introduced to Zoom and that fun navigation, and then learning to lead again through a whole other environment that was new, right? So talk about always growing and adapting. You've had a couple grandbabies along the way, and then in 2021, you brought your property of your someday house and had to grow in the discomfort of finally kind of recognizing you hit your dream. Still, the focus was kind of finding your purpose, right? Of who you are, why you're here, and why you matter. Am I missing anything about your life story?
No, it's pretty awesome recap.
Pretty damn good. There's always going to be those really cool one-off memories that we weren't able to glean during this experience. What I want us to remember was those big pivotal moments for Pamela in her life were the small little things that we always overlook. Always, right? From something a doctor in Japan said to free phones, right? Those little things. Sometimes it's important that we pause on our life story and reflect back on what were those moments for us and how did they impact us. Because had Pam not listened and been stubborn and grow and develop and keep pushing, none of us would be where we're at today, right? The impact that the wrenches have had on us, I can't put into words for myself, and I'm sure you guys have a similar experience, but I want us to remember that we all have that opportunity to make that kind of impact on each other. and we can't overlook it. It's like the ripple effect in water, right? How far does that go? We'll never know, right? So what was the thing you said? What was the helping hand you give? Or what was that little internal voice that you did decide to finally listen to, and how did it make that impact? So Pam, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your story for all of us. Thank you guys for being here.
Questions?
Wow, sure, go big.
You are having panic attacks when you, as in your career, you were selling cosmetics for a company. Okay. And then in the last 15, 20 years, you're doing incredible things, handling. Were the panic attacks gone, or how did you go from that, you know, cosmetics, to this and not have panic attacks?
Well, I think I learned how to manage my thoughts, because it was the thoughts that triggered the panic attack. So that's what I've learned.
And I can understand being in situations where you fear you're not up to the task. That's where the panic occurs, okay? And then when you learn to manage and plan and manage, that's when the confidence comes, okay? Thank you, thank you.
Just learning.
Any other questions or us?
Quick question, what's your next goal?
Boom.
That's set part 2 of this. That's my motivational interview. So like if you guys were going to do this with someone, number one, it probably wouldn't take this long. It would be faster, right? But this is a different environment to do this in. And you would schedule a second appointment to my motivational interview or my future self, right? Which Jackie took me through not too long ago. But I would say it's more of the same, to teach more and to do more speaking. And I'm looking at the opportunity to go into MAPS coaching. I'm also being certified to be a dream manager. I'm doing that this next month. So for me, it's just more learning and figuring out how to show up for people. So that's it. Taking more time off, like traveling 3 months out of the year, still doing what we want to do. I would ask you this. So if you're listening to a story, someone's giving you their life story, and you're looking to hire someone onto your team, hopefully what you've done ahead of time is you've predetermined who you're looking for. So that when you're listening to the story that they have, and Lindy did a great job asking me questions. Don't you guys think? Mm-hmm. When you're listening to it, this is how you're going to know if this person belongs in your world or not, is by listening to the story. And going back and replaying the story for somebody is so huge. But if you're going to hire someone, what are some of the things that you saw in my story that, okay, just that. What are some of the things, the characteristics that you saw in my story? What were they? Like, put a name to what you were hearing. Tenacity, determination, grit, open-minded,
Humbleness.
humble,
Learning based.
learning based. So we could go on, but we won't.
Humble.
So
It's perfect.
yes. But what I want you to understand is when you're ready to make those hires and ready to expand your world and make it bigger, you've got to spend some time thinking about who it is that you're looking for. What are the characteristics? What are the qualities? Because you can't change that in a person at all. You can only enhance it. You can only come alongside of it, right? So you really got to sit down and take this exercise and practice it. Really think about it. Whether you want to hire someone to come into your business world or into your personal world to take care of your children, it's really good to know these things about who are you looking for to bring into your world. So that's what I love about this part of it. Not only that, when you replay this for people, or when I get to sit here and hear my life story, how often do you think about your life story? You know, where did you come from? What are you having to overcome? What did you overcome? Those are all really big things, and yet we don't spend very little time, if at all, talking about them or thinking about them. But guess what? You carry them with you every single day. And either they are a mooring line holding you back, or it's what you're using to push yourself forward. That's all. And I know there's lunch and some other things that we got to cover really quick, right?
Yeah.
Just real quickly. Okay, really quickly.
Perfect. So we do have Mad Days with Massive Action Day. Let's see if I can use my words. So we have a bingo sheet and a number sheet to see if you guys want to win prizes at the end of it. So basically, you're calling your sphere, you're calling people who know, love, and trust you, adding people to your database. So we have food, we have drinks. We're going to do it as a collective. It's kind of like a work party day. I think that's what one said. A work party day. So feel free to stay in here, phone calls, listen to each other, listen to the conversations, feed off of each other. You guys can ask each other what dialogue is working for you. So yeah, please stay, please come up to the front and get these, so go keep on them.
Yep. We've got lunch provided by Movement Market Craft.
Yeah.
Let's sing all your faces and let's make it a very good and impactful week.
And if you're meeting with me, you have 8 minutes.
Yeah.
8 minutes. Y'all got 8 minutes.